Welcome to Coming to Know Yourself. Today, I wanted to have a conversation about consciousness and what it is and how it's created and how it is part of our existence. And so we want to start with the basic fundamentals. So consciousness is the act of seeing, not seeing like through the eyes, because the eyes don't really see. They just pick up information like cameras and they send it to the brain and the brain processes that information. But consciousness is the very act of just simply seeing, being able to perceive. It's the act of perception. But consciousness is just the act of seeing. And so perception is being able to understand what it is that is being seen and also the details of what you're seeing. So depending on how we perceive what is in consciousness depends on how much we understand what we are seeing individually and as a whole. So the way we understand what we are seeing in consciousness is how much we are able to stand under the light, understand, and consciousness is the light through which we see. So to stand under the light depends upon how close you stand under the light, and the light is the truth. And the closeness, the ability to stand under that light of truth is not physically, like you're not standing underneath a light. You're emotionally resting in a space which exists close to or exactly in that light of truth. And so the light of truth is awareness. And awareness is the expression of the act of relation. But the act of relation is what we call love. So love is the light of truth. And the more we are resting in that space of love, of that light within love, the more we're able to understand what is in consciousness, or to see through that understanding. And that's how we have clarity of perception, is the more we stand under that light. And the reason why we have clarity of perception standing under that light is because the clarity of perception is the ability to have emotional stillness, emotional clarity. Because awareness, where a consciousness is the act of seeing, awareness is the act of feeling. When we're aware of something, it's because we experience it, and then through that experience, we know how we feel, and based on how we feel is how we are aware of what it is that we are conscious of, and that's what gives us the understanding to perceive the specifics of consciousness based on our clarity of awareness. The more emotionally clear we are, the more our awareness is open, because we have more empathy. And empathy is the gauge or level to which we are able to feel reality. And the more that we're able to feel reality, the closer we are to love. And the closer we are to love, the more aware we are, because we're closer to the essence and the act of relation. And awareness is that act of relation, because when one is relating to themselves and their environment, they are aware. But we're not always aware of what we are relating to unless we are emotionally clear And love is what gives us that emotional clarity, because it is the light which gives us the understanding to see clearly and have that consciousness, that higher level of consciousness, the higher level of standing under that light, being in the light. The more we're in that higher level of awareness, the closer we are to that light. And so the more we're able to feel what we are experiencing, and the more we feel, the more we know. So the more we know, the more we're able to understand what it is that we're experiencing in consciousness. But the mystery of that is, because awareness is the expression of love, and love is the act of relation, that awareness is what we call the self. And so when we talk about the light of truth, it's not just love, it is the self, because awareness, relation, love, and the self are all the same force. They're all the same mechanisms, all the same thing. And so the more you know yourself, the more you know love, or the closer you are to love, especially self-love. And the more you have self-love, the more you have emotional clarity, which then you're more aware and your empathy is more expanded, the more you're able to feel reality, and the more you're able to be conscious of what you're aware of. And so you have a clearer perception with that emotional clarity through standing under that light of love and the truth of your own true self when you know yourself. And that gives you a very clear perception of understanding reality, and the meaning of life is seen very clearly. And so your consciousness is at a high level, high degree of consciousness, and a high degree of awareness. So that's the fundamentals of consciousness, awareness, and understanding and perception. But in order to understand where all this comes from and how it all works, there needs to be a foundation, a prerequisite for where all this comes from and how it all works. And the first thing to identify with is that consciousness and awareness, the mechanism of understanding, of relation, of love, they do not exist in the body or in the brain. These are intangible things. In reality, there is a duality, a dualism. There is an opposite for everything. And so there's physical, tangible reality, things that are made of atoms, matter. The universe is made of matter, atoms. The body is made of matter. The brain is made of matter. But the aspects on the dualistic side of that is there's also an intangible part of reality. And consciousness, awareness, love, truth, understanding, perception, these things are intangible. They're not made of atoms. They're made of light and energy, just pure light and energy. There's no particles of physics, no matter. They are made of just light and energy. And so the other opposite dualistic comparison that we need to identify with is that right now, based on our perspective, all dualistic comparisons are based on how we compare things through our current perspective or point of origin. And so right now our point of origin appears to be that we are inside the universe on planet Earth, and we are a part of this body. The opposite of that, the dualistic nature of that, is that we are also not part of the body, and that there is, where there is a perspective of being in the universe and on planet Earth, there is also a truth, an opposite, that there is an outside of the universe, and that we are not on planet Earth. And so because of a kind of like the duality of the law of energy, that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Not only are there opposites, there's an equal to that point of perspective. And the equal would be that our perspective is we're part of this universe, this body, we're on planet Earth, we're in the universe. And so the equal of that is we're also outside the universe, and that we are not part of this body, and that there are aspects of our being that are not part of the universe intrinsically. It doesn't mean we can't interact with the universe and that we're not connected to the universe, but it's not who we are and what we are. And so another aspect of that is a sense consciousness, awareness, perception, the act of relating, the act of love, understanding, the pureness of light, of truth. Since these things are not part of the brain or part of materiality, and they are outside of the universe, not part of the material matter of existence, that means that these things are part of the mind, and that the mind is not part of the brain either, because the mind is an intangible aspect of reality. It's part of consciousness and awareness, and so it is also an intangible aspect. And so that brings us to outside the universe, and the outside of the universe is where the realm of consciousness is, or the environment of consciousness. We have the environment of the physicality, the matter of the universe, and we're very familiar with the physical environment and how it relates to us. But we're not very familiar with the environment of the mind, of consciousness, awareness, of love and truth and understanding and perception. And this environment is part of the mind, which is part of the realm of consciousness, which is outside of the universe, in just pure energy and light, the intangible aspect of reality. And each one of us has our own mind. And the mind is a separate space, a separate dimension outside the universe. And the outside of the universe is what we know as the ether. And it is pure energy and light. And we as beings, spiritual beings, we are beings of energy and light. And the energy part of us is the awareness. That's why the reason why we feel, and the act of feeling is knowing, and these two things are the expression of awareness, is because what we're feeling is our own energy and how it changes based on the stimulation of the senses and the stimulation of the physical environment. And the energy that we give off as spiritual beings emits light. And that light that we emit is how we see, because the energy that we exude gives off subtle variations in the light, and it creates patterns so that we can see things, so that we can identify things in the light. But as a whole, all of consciousness is the light expressed from our being, that is the awareness, the self, the expression of love, of relation. And the mind is created as a space around our being that is created by the energy, the force at which we give off as spiritual beings, which condenses the energy in the ether or the realm of consciousness into a field of energy around us, kind of like a sphere, like a force field. And within this energy field around us, we have the ability to create variations in our own light, which we create patterns. which is the conscious field of consciousness. And we're able to create thoughts and feelings, emotions, and memories. Our memories are not stored in the brain, they're stored in this field of energy around us. And when the body gathers the senses and the eyes take in light, because the eyes are cameras, we don't actually look out of the eyes, they take in photon radiation. The brain processes the energy that we pick up with the four senses and the light that we pick up with the eyes, and it processes it through the brain. And in the center of the brain, it creates a final point called the anterior nucleus of the thalamus, or what René Descartes calls the seat of the soul. And right there is a singularity where all of the senses meet into a single point. And in that single point, there is magnocellular neurons which create a succession of vibrations as the sensory information travels as electrical impulses through these magnocellular neurons, and it creates a vibration which we know as a brainwave. And in this single point where all the senses converge and create this singular point of light and energy of a magnetic field, there is a very tiny convergence, a singularity in the brain that creates like what we would call a stargate, a wormhole. And so all of the senses are converted into a brainwave, into a multi-data bit stream of light and vibration. And it passes through this stargate or wormhole in that singularity where all the senses converge. And it travels through the universe to the outside of the universe, and it touches upon the field of energy around your being. And the vibration of the energy of the brainwave that's transmitted wirelessly through that portal in the singularity of the brain, in the center of the brain, the energy around our being responds to that vibration, kind of like when you have two rooms with a glass window, and in one side you have music playing, and in the other room, through the glass window, you hear the music playing, but you're not actually hearing the source of the music. The window is vibrating, and it recreates the vibration of the music, and you're hearing the recreation of the vibration. So when the brainwave wireless signal travels through the universe and outside the universe and touches upon the energy field around our being, that vibration recreates an energy field, and everything that we see in front of us right now is our own energy creating a field of consciousness. And the energy vibration then touches on our energy being, and we have uncountable sensors on our energy being which pick up the subtle vibrations of those sensory information that's been sent through that brainwave. And we identify with them, and we call them things like taste, touch, hearing, smelling. But these are just subtle vibrations which are one sense, which is awareness, a feeling of knowing. And so as these subtle variations touch our being, it creates a wave, kind of like on a still pond. And all these waves create different vibrations that we feel. We actually, the way we know and perceive and understand what is in consciousness is by how we feel. We actually feel color, we feel our senses, and that's how we know and experience them and perceive what we're experiencing. And so when we're experiencing consciousness, it is through what we're aware of, what we're feeling, that we are experiencing what we're conscious of. And our feeling, our clarity of what we feel, is based on how well we are emotionally still inside of our being. The more emotional clarity we have, the more emotional wellness we have, the more we are standing under that light of truth, that ability to relate, to feel reality, and to be able to see the understanding through standing under that light of truth, through being close to that ability to be aware through that emotional clarity, and being able to be in touch with love in its essence through the empathy, the power of empathy. And so in this video, we're talking about getting to know consciousness. And the more that you can make your emotions, your sense of feeling one, singular, the more you can get rid of opinions and judgments and fear and emotional unrest and yearning and wanting and desires, the more you can bring yourself to just emotional rest, the closer you are to having your heart undivided with that void, that emptiness, and you feel more whole. And the closer you get to that light, standing emotionally under that light, the closer you feel the warmth of that awareness of love, the more emotional clarity you have. And so the more understanding and the more conscious you are of reality, the more of reality you can perceive. There's a scripture where Jesus says, "If thine eye be single, then thy whole body be full of light. And if thine eye be full of darkness, then thy whole body be full of darkness." And so this the eye he is talking about is the eye of consciousness, perception. And so to be singular in your perception is to have your whole body, your body, what he's referring to is your spiritual body, your awareness, your emotional body. And so the more our emotions are singular, the more we are one with our hearts, the more still we are in our desires, the more emotional at peace we are, the more clarity we have, the more one we are, then we do not have that darkness in us. And the darkness he's referring to is the suffering, the emotional unrest, the spiritual sickness of the lack of emotional clarity, the lack of self-love, the self-loathing, that darkness that in us that causes that suffering. So the more suffering we have, the more we are in that darkness of ignorance, the less we're standing under the light of truth, the less we're closer to that self-love, and the less we are standing under that light. And so in order to bring us to that oneness of seeing, the oneness of the eye of understanding, the oneness of consciousness of reality, it is to be the more one inside with that inner peace, that emotional clarity, to end that drive of want, to be still in desire, to love yourself, to love others. The closer we are to love, the more we are in that emotional stillness, the spiritual wellness, the more that darkness is not in our perception, and the more thine eye be single, and the more we are standing under that light, so that our whole body can be filled with light. Because the more we're emotionally and spiritually unwell, the less we can stand under that light of consciousness, awareness, of love, of truth, and be filled with that light. And so in this video, we are talking about consciousness, and we will talk more about awareness in another video, but that is the basics of consciousness. I have more on the more specifics in my writings on my website, and you can find that on the YouTube channel. And for now, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and until the next time, I send you my love and my peace, and I'm always thinking about you and hoping that your suffering is slowly going away. And then the more you come to know yourself, the more you will enter into that love and that peace and that joy of life. Until then, take care.